Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anime Sickos. It's the podcast for geniuses and the only podcast where we take a look at the four pillars of modern misery: anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I am Tom, an anime sicko.
I am Joe, an anime sicko.
Joe, I don't know if you saw this on the Twitter, but I went to the mall because I wanted to do Christmas shopping. I was having such a difficult time thinking of presents to get, and I'm like, you know what would fucking help? Just going to a place where there's shit in front of my face until I'm like, I think my buddy would like that, and
So you
then
can
like
ooh and ah and smash your face up against the glass.
Exactly. I mean, the real reason was I wanted to be out of the house during work hours so that I would feel like I was getting one over on the man. So I did that, and I found...
The issue is the man built them all.
The man built them all, but here's the thing. Here's what the man also did. He built a display outside of the Vans store where there was a Vans X One Piece logo, and I said, "Excuse me?" And there were fucking Nico Robin shoes, purple Nico Robin Vans, and I, like a magnet, was drawn in, and I went right up to the purple Nico Robin Vans. I was pointing at them as I was walking towards them, and I said, I want that. Size 11, please. And now I have them, but I'm so scared because if a teen were to roast those shoes, I would be atomized on the spot.
Yeah. Are you cool enough to wear those?
No.
Yeah.
I have no drip. My fits go quite sane.
Wait. Well, maybe you can just do the thing where like you just put them on a shelf.
I mean, that's the plan, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got some patrons. We got actually 4 patrons, which is a lot for one week. But you know what they say? They come in batches.
Like celebrity deaths.
Exactly. Our first patron, that's gonna be Ben Fry. Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
I was gonna say something about fries. Make a joke about fries. I couldn't think of one. So that's the best you get.
That was the process.
Next patron, that's going to be Slow-Mo Bo. Slow-Mo Bo! That reminds me of Robo-Bo from Venture Brothers. Remember Robo-Bo?
Yes. That show's too good.
Thank you, Slow-Mo Bo. Next up, this person's giving us funny money. It's got an E next to it. They're from Europe. This is going to be Chris Green. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris, for your European dollars, which, as far as I know now, are like the same as regular dollars. You know, American ones.
Yeah. We invented dollars. And that, not America, us too. It was a big part of our lives. And a final patron, that's going to be Jason Daphnis. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Nice. Oh shit. There's one other thing that I gotta chill out for. So I talked about my shoes. I talked about the patrons. The third thing is, we've reprinted, or rather, are going to reprint the Sickos shirt that Casey Green did art for. It is a beautiful pink shirt that is very comfortable and pleasant to wear. It has a cartoon piggy with a big smile and a sash that says "Most Obedient Hog." This piggy is playing in the mud, having a great time, and is saying, "Gimme da slop," blissfully unaware, or perhaps all too aware, that behind him, other piggies are being led into a ominous building. Anyway, you can get that fucking shirt. It's so good. I recommend you get it. It's at animesickos.com/store. And it's only available for 1 month. The pre-orders close on January 7th. We have to do it this way, otherwise you just you print a bunch, assuming you know how many are going to get ordered, which is a fucking recipe for over-ordering and having stock that you can't move, and you make negative profit. So we're not doing that. We're doing pre-orders instead. AnimeSickos.store, or AnimeSickos.com/store, AnimeSickos.com/store. So that's that shit.
Cool. That's all the housekeeping stuff. We're in business.
Yeah, you could start the episode now.
We took attendance. So we're doing a media grab bag. Tom and I just need to get stuff out of our head and onto the wax cylinder that we record the show on.
Yeah. This is the kind of thing that often the newsletter is used for, but if you subscribe to the newsletter, you may notice that shit don't get sent. So this is the next best thing.
Correct, yeah. So anything's fair game here. It's not just gaming. Although,
Yeah.
let's be honest, yeah, that's where my horrible sickness generally lies. But uh, I want to start, Tom. I want to start
Yeah.
talking about debuffs.
Yeah, okay. You've been talking to me. I know what you're going to talk about. I know what you're going to talk about. You are once again uh enthralled in a Vampire Survivors like as
Mhm.
though it was the first time you've encountered such a game.
I've never seen them attack on their own before. Amazing. Usually I have to press a button. How cool.
So what is it this time? It's I remember when you were all in on Bone Razor Minions. I gotta tell you, that game fucking sucks. I got that game because it was $2 and you were so into it. I'm like, what's it like? I hated that one. What's this new one?
Okay, Soulstone Survivors. My pitch for why it's worth playing is that the debuffs are just really satisfying. Like, we have wrung out all the dopamine out of 20 Minutes Till Dawn, and that was that game where you pick a goth witch,
Yeah.
and then you pick a gun, and then you shoot Cthulhu's, and then you try to live to the end of the night, which is 20
Yeah.
minutes, hence the title.
Yeah, they recently adapted this into a Netflix series. It was the Wednesday Addams show.
So like any good game, there's builds in 20 Minutes Till Dawn, but by far, like, the most fucking rewarding thing is, like, the talent that makes it so, like, when an enemy dies, if they are on fire or frozen, there's a chance that it'll just spread to a nearby guy. That feels so good. That's why you play video games.
Yeah. I mean, especially in a game where the whole point is dealing with a horde, the fact that you can have passive crowd control and DOT spells just spreading without your input is like, well, obviously that's the best possible thing that can be happening right now. More of this, please.
Here's why Soulstone Survivors is brave, in my opinion. They thought hard, and they're like, what if we just turned every debuff into 2 debuffs? What does that mean? Well, there's bleed, and there's
Yeah.
hemorrhage.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, bleed is constant damage. Hemorrhage is damage when you move.
Okay. Well, okay. Oh, Joe. Can hemorrhage be applied independently of bleed?
Not only is it independently applied, it has a different debuff icon that goes under the guy's life bar. So you get to see the bleed icon, and then you get to see another arrangement of blood next to it.
That's a lot of blood if he's got both. He's got so many drips coming out of him. My God. Is this guy a fucking eggplant emoji? He got so many drips next to him. Hey.
The debuff that is genius is Doom. Now, Doom in, like, the Final Fantasy sense is like, okay, there's like a timer over a character's head, and when the time runs out, it takes a shit ton of damage. That's how
they
it
have
works.
that. They have that in 20 Minutes Till Dawn too.
Yes. How Doom works in this is similar. So every time you apply Doom, you apply a stack of Doom, which adds to the damage when it goes off, as well as resetting the timer. Now, if you're continuously applying Doom, you're like, well, it's 5 seconds. Like, it's never going to happen because you're always refreshing the timer.
Yeah.
What really fucking rules is how it works in Soulstone Survivors is when the enemy's health hits the amount of Doom damage, they instantly die.
Whoa. So you're telling me
You're like shaving off both parts of their life bar at the same time.
if say an enemy had 1,000 points of doom incoming, when the timer shuts off, when the timer runs down, they're going to take 1,000 doom damage, and say further, they had 1,100 health right now, and then you took them down to 1,000, and the timer was still at 5 seconds.
It goes off, killing the guy immediately.
Okay, folks. If you have any interest in game design, if you are involved in the industry, I would like you to stop everything you're doing. Like, just write what we just said down on a fucking stone tablet. Go up to a fucking mountain and look at that. I was so suspicious, so skeptical of this fucking game because Joe is constantly getting enthralled by some fucking shiny ball in a box, and I'm like, that doesn't make it a good game. This is like I'm crying, dude.
Okay, and let's we're not even done with Doom. You know how I said like every status effect they basically made two?
Oh my god.
Okay, so Doom is a cousin debuff to Cursed. And how Cursed works is it's the same thing as Doom, where like it'll kill you when your health hits it, but every time it ticks for damage, it does a small AoE pulse.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Dude.
Yeah, it's really fucking sick.
The thing about oh my god, this is like this is what people talk about when it's like the thing that takes game design from good to great are these small decisions that seem so minor, but like the impact they have in like making the game feel good is astronomical. Like 20 Minutes Till Dawn, it has Doom. It works the same way. There's a timer. You know, you apply Doom, a little fucking skull appears above the guy's head. Some time goes off, then the skull goes ah, and then they get a bunch of damage happens to them. This is in Hades too, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in 20 Minutes Till Dawn, like the full like super upgrade to the Doom upgrade tree gives you scaling based on Doom kills, which is to say, you know, for every 100 enemies killed by the Doom, you know, going off, your base damage goes up by 1% permanently.
So you
this
are like
sounds really
actively
cool.
making the Doom happen, which involves a lot of not shooting all the time. Like you have to curate this growth now.
Exactly, because if you're doing what is the smart thing to do in a horde game, which is attacking as often as possible so as to thin out the horde, what you were doing is you're applying Doom to an enemy and then shooting them again, and then they die from the normal bullets. And you never fucking have the Doom go off. And so instead you have to shoot and then sort of like run away like an idiot. And that's no fun. Lame! You gotta have this kind of Doom.
Yeah, the debuff is not wasted in any way. Like the damage that gets doomed will happen. There is not like a non-optimal way to deal with that enemy that can steal your sweet DPS from you.
Yeah. You never are like, dang, I killed it wrong, and now I'm not gonna get my scaling.
Yes, the classes are pretty good. A lot of them are just like straight up Warcraft ripoffs. That's fine. Like there's a Death Knight. It uses ice. It's like a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
The art style is sort of like a low poly but colorful character design. But every character is Vivi from Final Fantasy IX. They are like the black with the glowing eyes.
Yeah. The little Jawas.
Yeah, and
oh, you can't say that. That felt bad to say. That's from Star Wars. I didn't come up with that name.
Yeah. Ooh.
There was I was at my piano recital. I posted about this. I chunked it. I'm over it now. I didn't actually get embarrassed because I don't care about any of these people who saw it, but it did hurt at the time. However, the point being, there were a lot of pieces in the in the repertoire, in the lineup, where I just pointed at them on the program and leaned into my wife and said, "You can't say that." And there was someone who was a vocal student who was singing like a jazz standard. And it had a word for the Roma people that begins with a G that she sang with gusto and confidence. And I'm just like, you can't say that. Anyways.
I said on the show I was at my niece's dance recital, and the guy announcing it fucked up and said "Dance of the Sugar Cum Fairies." and like there was an entire auditorium of people, and I was the only one that laughed.
You're the only one with the brain big enough, dude.
Yeah. But just a caveat with this game: it's not a $2. It costs like I think $10 or something. It's a real price. There is more game here, though.
Okay. What other meat is there to be had in Soulstone Survivors?
What's the progression? Well, every single class has their own prestige level, which unfortunately unlocks skills for every other class. The way the game works is
Oh
like
my
when you hit
god.
the experience, you get shown three like options, some power up options, and by playing and unlocking stuff, more of those are in there. And then there's um, a rune system, which it's not a sphere grid, but anything that looks like that is a fucking sphere grid.
Mm-hmm.
So how that works is you get modifiers to tweak kind of how you're going to play, or you can like pick runes that sort of corral the randomness, like you're going to get more holy spells, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And how that works is like the game then becomes where I'm at. Like I'm not like at the end, but I'm like kind of like at the. I've hit a wall, and it's
Yeah.
clear that the way forward is to squeeze more DPS out of breaking these runes even harder. And so there's stuff
Nice.
like you have less area of effect, but you do 40% more damage. You do 5% for every discrete debuff on the enemy, which is like the coolest thing ever. So they get all covered in
Yo.
everything, and they
Okay.
take a ton of
Okay.
damage. So there's just like a lot of that. And it has the ascension thing that we love about fucking 20 minutes till dawn, whatever, which is just like, okay, that was hard. Let me just turn up the temperature a little bit more and do it
Mm-hmm.
again.
Yeah. I love the ascension levels because when you get to like when you're able to beat the last one, the hardest one, like semi regularly, it's so fucking like goofy mode to just drop it back down to base difficulty, and it feels like you've taken off of weighted clothing and are just like going Super Saiyan on all these motherfuckers. Anyway, okay, Joe, this is interesting to me because can you confirm that when you're sort of like going into the weeds and like making these builds and tweaking to try to get the final DPS out, um, I'm just thinking about 20 Minutes Till Dawn is a great game, but mostly it's because you're the one shooting the gun. It's a lot more about the moment to moment like gameplay, like the action, yeah. Not so much about the build because in that game the thing that you want to do is so fucking obvious that like you just do that. So like I want the guys to stop coming at me. Well you're gonna want ice then to freeze them, and it's like I want to shoot more bullets. Well, you're gonna want the more bullets upgrade. It's like I want my bullets to kill the guys. Well, you're gonna want the bullet damage
The fact
upgrade.
there's a corpse explosion like skill at the end of the ice tree is just like you're dumb if you don't pick it.
Yeah, it's like it really is like if you when someone's like, "What? How do I get better at fucking 20 Minutes Till Dawn?" Like the only answer is always like if you see the fucking extra bullets or ice upgrades, no matter what, pick those, and then you'll win the game every time.
Yeah.
And the point being that the 20 Minutes to Dawn also has like a rune system where you can like put these passives on your character, and there's like a bunch of different choices, and ostensibly what that means is like, oh, I have choice over my build. But what it really means is I will simply pick the best options, because like when you look at the options, there are obvious best
Right.
choices, and then you pick it and you never look at it again.
There's one tier that has increased experience. It's like you're fucking picking that one. Like you're
Yeah.
dumb if you don't.
Yeah.
Um,
Like what? Huh?
so it's a little more involved with Soulstone Survivors, whereas 20 Minutes Till Dawn has like the Warcraft talent style where there's just like three choices at each level, and you pick, oh, I want that one at that level, this one, and then that one. This is different. Like you have an amount of rune points, and you pick which runes you're throwing on your guy. So there's a little more
Mm-hmm.
mix and match potential.
Okay. So
And I like never change. Very rarely do I ever change any of the build choices on 20 Minutes Till Dawn. It's like, am I doing an elemental build? Then maybe I'll do that. But generally speaking, I just keep that shit
yeah,
like I figured it out.
yeah. Like there's one fucking upgrade that like it makes every third shot you shoot, like a super shot that does double damage and pierces all enemies.
Infinitely.
It's like if you are fucking dumb, maybe you'll pick one of the other perks on that level, but like don't. Like don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I like this. Joe, here's another question I have. So this is a debuff heavy game as you've mentioned, where it's not all about just doing raw damage. You want to be applying debuffs. Here's the thing. Debuffs are present in other games of this type, but I generally do not value them very highly, because the whole point of a horde survival game is that, like, if there's going to be a horde of enemies constantly closing in on you that you're able to survive, to me that implies that you are able to kill them quickly.
You do not need the debuffs, is your thinking.
Exactly. Like, why do I need... It's like using skip a turn attacks in Dragon Quest, where like this spell might make the enemy skip a turn, and I'm like, well, dead enemies skip every one of their turns, so I'd rather have that. Like, I'd rather have them die than use puff on them and they skip a turn. That's what I'm thinking. Like, why would I debuff an enemy that's gonna be on screen for fucking half a second anyway before he gets killed?
Well, it's time for you to sit your white ass down and learn, because they beautifully, the developers of Soulstone Survivors, have made it so you can do plenty of bursts with status effects that are damage over time. For instance, there's a move called Subdue, which is a big swing that does damage, but then it does, like, for every stack of bleeding or hemorrhage, it now does this much more. Yes. There is Dazed, which is very fun, which is it just increases the chance to get crit. And the Elementalist, which is like the lightning guy in the game, his first move is just like a repeated laser, by which I mean a continuous beam that applies Dazed, so you hit 100% crit rate so fast.
Oh my god.
So there's that. And then there's also... in the upgrades, there are things like I think it's called you could get gangrene. So it's like whenever you apply blood,
oh my god,
poison also shows up.
Ah,
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, like thermal impact or something, or thermal shock. Whenever slow is applied, burn is applied, or vice versa. And then there's a rune that specifically is like increases the likelihood of those synergy choices coming up, and then also increases the likelihood that they trigger by 50%. So you can like see, like, it's not just like, oh, damage is ticking down very quickly. Like, you can use this stuff to do burst damage.
Yeah, and I assume based on what you're saying that like the average HP of a given bad guy is higher than it is in Vampire Survivors and 20 Minutes Till Dawn. Because again, in those games, like the amount of time an enemy is on screen is generally like less than a second.
Yeah.
That can't be the case here.
No. Like there's little goblins that are like that, but especially as you go up in the difficulty levels, which they call them curse level. They're just the same thing that Hades does, where it's like, what are they called? Like hell points?
Heat level.
Those things. But yeah, man, like Frozen Warhammer does extra damage based on how many stacks of slow or paralysis are on the guy. That's fun.
Yo, okay. Oh, Joe, you know what this sounds like? Tell me if this is correct. This is a game that it does not fear you getting nutty with it.
No, it like, I genuinely feel like it's a puzzle game, and like I'm at a difficulty check, and like the way I get past it is not like getting better at the game, because I really don't think I can get that much better mechanically, because it's just dodging.
Yeah.
So now I just got to do math better. I got to do more exploitive math.
This is so okay. I love this. And Joe, when you talk about a game that is not afraid to let you get nutty, I love that. I just the idea. This is again. Game designers, write this on a fucking stone tablet and go to the mountain and look at it until you internalize it. The way that a game like really gets good and shoots out the happiness juice is when it presents you a little puzzle How are you going to get enough DPS? And the solution is to do something that feels it feels like an exploit.
There is
Like,
an equation, and you have to start stomping and squeezing on different parts of it to try and figure it out.
You need to feel like you've found something they didn't want you to find. But, like, obviously they did, because that is the solution. Now, bringing this up always brings my mind back to one of my most disdained games, Griftlands. I talked about this in the Sickos Become Deck Builder snobs. No, I hate Griftlands. And some of the questions I was asking, where did I derive these questions from? Well, I was basically asking, it doesn't do that shit from Griftlands, does it? Griftlands, I gotta just recap, because I hate this game. It does not let you get nutty with it. It is so terrified that you might have a huge number show up. Here's why. It has so many debuffs, but it's a deck builder in the Slay the Spire tradition. So the only way you're able to apply debuffs is by drafting a card that does that, and then waiting for you to draw it in the card game. And you might have a turn where you draw that debuff card, but, like, I need to defend this turn, so I don't have the fucking time or resources to play the debuff card, so what was the point of it? But here's the fucking awful thing. When you apply debuffs, when you apply stacks of what have you to a bad guy, and then the effect of the debuffs occurs, the amount of stacks does not decay by 1 as it does in Slay the Spire, the game that Griftlands obviously wants to be. It decays by half. So if I did nutty shit and put 20 bleed on an enemy, I'm like, oh, this guy's dead. No, it'll go up to 10, and then 5, and then 3, and then none.
Tom, I'm smiling so much right now because I'm going to get to tell you about something.
Yeah, wait till this. When you said that there were 2 types of every debuff, that gave me Griftlands PTSD, dude, because there's 2 types of debuffs for that shit. There's burn, and then there's scorch. There's bleed, and then there's, I don't know if it's also called hemorrhage, super bleed. There's 2 types, and it's done in the dumb. The design of this shit is so stupid and anti-player, because what it is, it's. You know why I asked is, can you put hemorrhage without putting on bleed first? Well, because in Griftlands, you fucking can't. The worst one needs the first one to be present in order for you to even get the chance to apply it, which...
Too much spin up.
And also, the fucking stacks decay by half. No matter how much of a debuff you put on someone, they're down to 0 in like 3 turns, no matter what. So, this is a card game, by the way. You don't know when you're going to be able to apply this shit. So you might get in your opening hand something that applies Scorch. And I'm like, well, I don't have anything that applies Burn, so this is a dead card. It may as well be a picture of Goatsy. It's useless to me. And then I get the fucking Burn card. I'm like, I'm going to apply Burn and they're going to apply Scorch. By the time I get the Scorch card, this is so stupid, because anyone who knows anything about card games knows that cards that require you to draw things in a specific order are useless. And Griftlands is like, that's most of our cards. And it's like, I'll kill you. Anyway, you had a good news about Soulstone Survivors to tell me?
I did. There is a stat in Soulstone Survivors called Vulnerable. And this is how it works. It makes it, and this stacks, right? You could have multiple stacks of Vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it so the next instance of damage is 25% higher, and it consumes a stack. There is a 50% chance the stack will not be consumed.
Dude, what?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So if you get multicast going, and that's another fucking amazing thing about this game, is like attack speed is a stat, how fast you attack, but then there's also a stat, which is your multicast stat, which is when you automatically do an ability, the percentage chance that you do it again for free. So you can imagine how when you have like a decent and like if you're not picking multicast, you're a fool, because it's just like
yeah, it's like not picking more bullets in fucking 20 minutes till dawn. It's like, don't you know bullets are the main thing?
yeah, it's so awesome. It just, oh my God. And then the fact that. And I said attack speed is like boring compared to multicast. But then you like are thinking like, well, if I'm attacking faster, well, then I might multicast more.
Yeah, you're rolling the die more often.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get more 6s. Oh my god, this game. Okay, yo, I was so ready to be slamming Joe for being like, oh, he's the survivors like guy.
I am though.
And
Like that's not wrong.
yeah, but I was ready for this to be another Bone Raiser Minions. Where I'm like, this is just Vampire Survivors that sucks. Like this is just a worse version. Like why is he liking this? I bet he's gonna get tired of it in a week. And then you did, and I'm like, how right I was. Sounds like this game, Soulstone Survivors, is actually like really good, and now I want it.
I mean, I've been
Didn't
playing.
think I was gonna want it.
I've been playing it since I was in Florida. Like I brought my Steam Deck, and that was not the only thing installed on it, but the only thing I played.
Hell yeah. Anyway, moving on. I think we said all we were gonna say about that game. Joe, I hear that you are becoming a fucking a film bro.
Yeah, I'm a film bro
Is
now.
this true?
Yeah.
Oh
So
my God.
first order of business: ladies can't watch Goodfellas.
They can't. They can't like it.
They can't.
They're not gonna like it.
I have 180'd on this issue. No. So recently, Sarah McHenry had an amazing birthday party. Friend of the
Yeah.
show and wonderful person.
Friend of us in real.
Oh, of course, yes. And in their back patio, they got a projector and watched Fargo. It was awesome. Fargo's a great movie, but it was the first time Winnie had seen a Coen Brothers movie, and she was like, "Oh, like, are there more like this?" And I got to be like, "Oh,
What a heady mix of black comedy and stark violence.
oh, okay." So, now I'm in the process of doing like the most unthinkable thing, which is sitting down with my girlfriend and watching all the Coen Brothers movies, like the most stereotypical white guy behavior. But
It's not white guy behavior if she asked first.
yeah, it's true, exactly. It's not mansplaining. I'm not weird. This is a guided tour.
You are normal. You can't don't put in the paper that I wasn't normal.
So I started with, after we watched Fargo, obviously. You were there.
Yeah.
So then we opened with my choice, which was "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
Now that's a real good time. You can't stop having a good time with that one.
Yeah, it's George Clooney and Brad Pitt, for that matter, should only get to play like dunces.
Yes, dude. They're like they truly are character actors cursed with that face.
Yeah, like George Clooney should be doing goofs, but the devil gave him the most beautiful face.
Like I wonder if you like could go up to them and be like, I am a Twilight Zone guy. I have a magical wager for you. I'll go back in time and like fuck your face up when you're 18 years old. But think of the roles. Like
You will be the next character actor of all time. And I bet people don't go up to them that often and say that they're specifically funny. Like, I'm sure all the normal movie star fandom think, "Oh, I loved you," and blah, blah, blah. But, like, I hope someone has, like, gone up to Brad Pitt and be like, "The face you make before you get shot in Burn
I was
After
gonna
Reading
fucking say
is so fucking funny, and you should be in a museum."
one of the funniest faces ever made. I'll go on record. Have you watched Burn After Reading with Winnie yet?
No.
Oh.
I really like that. When everyone has their Coen Brothers rankings, I'm always surprised to see that one either about like halfway down or lower. I really like it.
It's I think the thing is that it is a goofy comedy, and they have a lot of movies that are sort of more substantial. By which I mean that I don't mean to imply that Burn After Reading is insubstantial. I mean just like Burn After Reading is goofy, and they have movies that carry an air of prestige, and you feel like you should rank the prestigious ones above Burn After Reading. Like Miller's Crossing has prestige. This means something. It's art with a capital A. You gotta rank that higher than the screwball Burn After Reading, right? I mean, especially because it's great. It's a great movie that makes that's artistic. But like, They're both equally good because
The ending to Burn After Reading is just like, oh fuck, that happened. I guess did we learn anything? And like, no. Okay.
what is there to learn? Yeah. Oh God. Yo. You know what I haven't thought about in ages is Raising Arizona. I used to watch that movie all the time when I was a kid. That's a fucking great one.
That is. The Coen brothers love a guy representing death, or just some weird freak.
Yes. Yeah. Yo, you know how we always, when we're doing like fiction for the show, we're like, and then the devil, he's real, by the way. He showed up.
Yeah.
He's here now. Like, that's that impulse. It's just like, we could be subtle, or it could just be like, this guy's like a Satan guy.
What in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? They pick up Tommy, who is the black guitar player, and he was like, "What are we doing?" And he says, "Oh, I was trading my soul to play this guitar to the devil." And then George Clooney starts explaining, just like, "Oh, the devil is a red man with a fork and a tail," and Tommy's like, "Actually, he's a white man like you." When I saw that, all I could think about was George Clooney saying, "The devil is a red man with a fork and tail," and Tommy going, "That's right. You are very right."
Have you met him too? It was just so. God damn.
And of course, Stephen Root appreciation. He's the guy who has the radio station the Soggy Bottom Boys sing into, the can.
Yeah.
He's the owner
Yeah.
of the can.
He's so good. Now, see, this is the kind of guy that George Clooney and Brad Pitt could have been if they hadn't looked that way.
That he is Earth 2 George Clooney.
Yes. Yeah. Yo, Joe, speaking of great filmmaking, and Stephen Root, you seen Barry? Have you watched Barry?
No, is that the Obama documentary?
No! What? No, it is fucking wow.
Yeah, I thought it'd be weird
not
that
what
Stephen Root was in it.
No, it's Bill Hader's show about the hitman who wants to become an actor. Well, that's the elevator pitch. That's the plot of season 1, is that the hitman wants to become an actor. But it very quickly is not about that. It becomes about the consequences of what happened in previous episodes. It's so good, dude. And Stephen Root is Barry, the main character, the hitman, who wants to become a real boy. He is like the devil. He is the devil on his shoulder. He's his handler who like gets him his contracts and is fucking like manipulating and grooming him into being a killer who depends on him for all things. And he's so fucking fun and scary, but also pathetic. The whole series is a real slam dunk. It's a grand slam of a show. But if you're a Stephen Root fan, you got to check it out.
You know what the Stephen Root trademark is? Is like having one eye darting around all crazy.
Yo, he's so shifty in Barry.
I'm just thinking about the character he plays in Oh Brother. He has a cane and like he's just like only one eye, or the other eye is just like he's squinting all the time. I don't know. And he just really, really makes that eye dance as he's talking.
Hey, I forgot. This is an important part of the Stephen Root filmography that I think is overlooked, because I overlooked it until just now. He's fucking Bill Dauterive from King of the Hill.
That was like such a fun mansplaining fact. I got to turn to Winnie and say, I was like, that's Bill from King of the Hill. She was like,
Dude.
oh.
Wow. She said, oh, in that tone. That's like fucking...
only because she likes
for
King of the Hill. Like, if it was something not near and dear to her, she would have been like, eh.
I would have just said that is for white boys. Like, it's like a drink in the desert. It's like, this is what it's all for. This is why I've made myself this way. Like, all these years of building this personality. Why do it? Well, this is why.
Yeah. Tonight, we have a date night. We're going to watch The Big Lebowski.
Ooh,
she asked
that's
me
gonna be
genuinely, like, was it about a Polish guy? Which, that's a fucking funny question.
Yeah, it's like, dear, you're asking to ask if The Big Lebowski is about something is very much missing the point. See, this is going to be a tough sell because The Big Lebowski, I think, is a movie that only sort of the flower only opens up to let you smell the delicious smell after like viewing 3, which is an insane ask to a person who is not like ready for like I'll watch, because I remember I watched it the first time. I'm like, that was weird, and it took like 2-3 reviewings for me to be like, oh, it's the best movie ever. But then also, I know we said fandom sucks ass. Don't let fandom taint your view of art, but Big Lebowski, it's kind of fucking hard to do that.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, there's Lebowski Fest. I think it's the only Coen Brothers film with a annual fan fest. I don't think. Is there a No Country for Old Men fest?
Not to my knowledge.
Where you
is
can
there a
go.
Lady Killers Fest.
Yeah, that's at the bottom of everyone's list almost unanimously.
Yeah, never saw it.
I saw it in theaters. I don't know how old I was at the time when it came out. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, that's not good enough for Coen Brothers, though.
Yeah, especially for, kid me.
Yo, has she seen No Country for Old Men? She's got to have seen at least that.
No, she's not. And that's like
that's gonna be a fucking slam dunk.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that. That one's it's up there, man. There's just a lot of really good shots of people doing things very intricately, like sewing up a wound, tying a bunch of hangers together to pull it through a vent. A briefcase, that is.
I love the bit where he meets the guy on the road, and Shiger, that is, and he has his cattle gun, and he basically is just like, hello, friend, please stand still right here. And he like brings his cattle gun up. He's like, what are you going to do? And he's like, friend, please do not move when I put this against your head. And he's like, okay, what are you going to do? And it's like, well, I'm going to, like, I'm going to fucking, like, what do you think, man? I mean, he didn't say that, but that's just good. Because that's so real, Like, that's how it would be. Like, hey, just stand here for a second. And he's like, okay. And it's like, I'm clearly setting up to put a bolt through your brain. And it's just like, but don't move, okay? Like, stand there. And you're like, well, okay, I don't want to be rude.
I'm going to bring that cattle gun thing to Micro Center and be like, if you can't figure out the motherboard, you got to do this to me.
Joe sent me a text that was like, dude, Micro Center finally started working on my thing. The problem was the the power cord extenders that came with the graphics card. They were the problem. Now it's fixed. And I'm like, that's an insane thing to be the problem. And then like 5 hours later, Joe's like, Micro Center guy called me again and said he's not so sure.
Yeah. And credit where credit's due. He's putting a lot of effort into this, and he called me like after 10 o'clock because he knew I was a nerd worrying about my computer.
Joe, I gotta ask, how do you get the willpower to do this, filmography watch through? Because I have had that impulse in the past, especially when people on Twitter are like going on and on about a director, like most recently, people going on about Scorsese. Yeah, mm-hmm. He's a world artist, one of the all-time greats. And I'll look at all these great films he's made, and I'm like, I've seen like 2 of his movies. They were really good. Maybe I should do that. And then like it just doesn't happen. Like watching a movie feels like such a big like I really got to make the decision. And, like, it's such a hard thing to do when I could just be like, I'll just put on some fucking videos. I don't care. How are you doing this? How are you achieving this?
If I was doing it solo, just like, I want to get through all the Coen Brothers movies, I wouldn't do it. The reason it's happening, and my tip, is you got to have someone you're dragging along with you. Mm-hmm. You have to have some sort of social contract there.
Yeah, I got to trap my wife. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Joe, I hear they continue to fucking publish that comic, Kengan Omega. How's that doing?
Yeah. So the Punchin' manga, you're not familiar with Kengan Omega, here's the premise. All business deals are actually resolved by companies sending people to fight in an underground arena. That's also how mergers happen, I guess.
Yeah. Because like someone's gonna come out on top on the merger. Someone's gonna get a better end of the deal. How are they gonna do that? Negotiating in a boardroom? No, they're gonna send two red men to go fucking fight each other, and whoever wins, the company he represents gets the better end of the contract. It's it's how it really happens. It's not fiction.
So Kengan Omega is the sequel to Kengan Ashura, which was pretty much awesome the entire way through. Kengan Omega was very cool at the beginning, and then it just like really started fucking around. We both have the same opinion, I think, on Death Note. The first part's very interesting. The end is obviously very interesting. The middle part is stupid and also intentionally doesn't count when it's resolved.
Yeah, it's very lame. It's quite bad.
So the middle part of work, I don't know actually. I shouldn't say middle part because I don't know how long this is going to go for, but there was an extended period where it was just sort of issue after issue about like geopolitical stuff for different assassination families. And the weakness of this comic is that sometimes it thinks you don't want to see the fights all the time.
Yeah. This is a creative team that is lucky enough to have an artist who is one of the best of all time at portraying a punch as being like biblically strong. And the fact that sometimes there are chapters where that does not occur is like on the part of the writer, because it's a writer and an artist. It's not one guy doing both. On the part of the writer, it is one of the greatest crimes of all time to write a chapter where you do not ask your artist to draw a punch in this way.
I'm against min-maxing, but you need to min-max his output because he draws the best fighting guys.
Yeah, this is a human man, so he will die one day. So like, there's a finite amount of panels in him. You gotta make sure he's not outputting duds, and there are some fucking duds in Kengan Omega.
Yeah, I will say, I feel like the comic has hit its stride where fights now are 2 chapters. So we're talking, so like 16 pages twice. And even in that relatively short amount of time, there is as much exciting reversals and whatever that would be happening in the longer fights. It truly feels like he was like, okay, I know what I want out of like a fight experience, and I know how to make it happen in 2 chapters regularly and with great effect. And it's cool.
Hell yeah. We're not the Purgatory shit's not around no more, right? There was like another association that wasn't the Kengan Association called Purgatory that did underground fights, and like the big boring part was like Kengan Association versus Purgatory. Are we done with that shit?
The coolest Purgatory guys are around now. It's fine.
Okay, so basically, it was all just a big fucking audition for like which of these guys I thought up are any good.
So Koga, the main character who like just disappears for most of the boring middle that we complain about.
Because he didn't get entered in the fucking tournament, and the tournament lasts like 50 chapters.
Correct.
What? Huh?
It's very funny. But in the as far as Purgatory goes, he like goes up the ranks in that sort of off screen.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's how they establish him earning his chops.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So here's my prediction on Kengan Omega. It will be good until the tournament ends.
Yeah.
I hope they don't do some shit where like the tournament gets interrupted, because that's happened in the past, and that feels like a big crime.
I can see why, as an artist, you might want to do that, because the tournament is a very stock trope, and you're like, I need to introduce a twist. You really don't, because like, look at your output. You are clearly a creative team, one of the best on the planet at just chunking through the formula, just turning the crank, and diamonds come out. And it's just like, what if a twist occurred and someone like threw a big wrench in the magical machine that makes the diamonds? I'm like, well, I imagine I wouldn't have as many diamonds. And it's like, that's the problem.
The tournament is slamming beers, and you're like, no one likes doing this.
Yes, exactly.
Tom, it is my understanding you are watching Andor. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
That's
Andor,
a Star Wars.
I hate to say that you are right, Joe. It is with heavy heart and deep regret that I must report that Andor is really good. I was so ready to hate this because I don't care. I actually have negative affection for Star Wars. I see a Star Wars in front of me and I go, bleh! Ooh, get it away! I don't give a shit about this stuff. I don't want to watch it. But people kept being on my timeline being like, Andor is not just good Star Wars. It's good sci-fi. And one of the best shows on TV. I'm like, that can't possibly be fucking true. I saw Rogue One.
That framing, if I can interject, is funny because it's just like, Star Wars is not good sci-fi normally. But this manages.
To overcome its horrible disadvantages. Well, I would actually agree with that. Anyway, the point being, I saw Rogue One, the movie that Andor is from. And my opinion on Rogue One is that this movie sucks shit. People will try to defend it by being like, it actually has good politics. And it's actually the first film that portrays what war in a star setting would truly be like. And it is much more grounded and real than the other fantasy films in this series. That is all true on paper. What that paper, full of bullet points, does not address is that the movie is very boring, and none of the characters are interesting, and I don't care about any of them, and they don't give me a reason to.
Also, aren't they doomed to die?
They are doomed to die, but you can have a movie where people are doomed to die and you still care about the characters. They did not do that. I believe the reason for this is because the movie was a fucking mess to make and had like a jillion rewrites and reshoots and is sort of a Frankenstein. And it does not hold together as a cohesive whole. And Cassian Andor is like the deuteragonist, and he is some guy. His character is that he is a guy who's around. And I'm like, how the fuck are they going to make a compelling show out of the guy who's there? And I watched the first episode, and I said to myself, they haven't. Because the first episode of Andor is so boring. Joe, it is the first episode. I went nuts. I was on Twitter being like, you motherfuckers need to start replying the first episode's bad, I admit it, or else I'm going to start killing people. Like, you've lied to me about this fucking Andor show. Because all that happens is Andor sort of walks around, walks up to people who I don't know who they are, says some shit I don't care about, and looks from side to side. And that happens. That's like 40 minutes of that. He walks to some guy, I don't know who that is. He says some shit I don't care about. He looks from side to side because he's nervous. And then, like, huh? What is this? And people told me, and I couldn't believe this when I heard this. It's like, oh, actually, the first 3 episodes are meant to be watched all together. And I'm like, oh, I'll kill you. Like, you can, like, I'm so mad now. Like, you're gonna die. Why would they do, like, was there no editor in the room being like, okay, interesting first episode, one note, what, huh? cut it, not cut it all. What is this? I was going nuts. I was like, I'll watch the first 3 like they say, but I'm gonna really make a scathing review in the newsletter about how everyone made a big deal about Andor. And that's the other thing. People were like, Andor is actually like good politics. Andor is praxis. Andor is like Marxist, honestly. It's like an anarchist show. Like, and everyone's like, the Disney product is Marxist. Yeah, right. Talk about a bunch of rubes. And I'm like, oh yeah, they are a bunch of rubes. I'm gonna get in on that fun soon. Well, Joe, I hate to say it. The reason the first 3 episodes sucks is because Andor is anime, And you know how the first 3 chapters of every manga are terrible because
it's illegal to make it good at the beginning.
Yeah, the first 3 chapters have to be the mangaka does not really understand what the series is going to be yet, and there's a very clear formula for first 3 chapters. The first chapter you have to introduce everything, so it's a bunch of exposition. It's not exciting, and they have to have a little fight, but it's boring because you don't it's short because they need time for exposition. The second has to be we introduce some second character who I don't know who he is yet because he hasn't done anything because it's just 1 chapter. In the third chapter, you introduce the girl. It's very boring. And then after the third chapter, you can actually start the series. That's what's happening here. And another reason it's anime is because this shit has arcs. And this is very interesting because it is these days it feels like TV is one of 2 ways. You got episodic, story of the week. Sitcoms are like this. And then you have serialized, your Barrys, your Breaking Bads, and your Game of Thrones is what have you. Where if you just drop in and watch episode 1, season 7, it's gonna be a bunch of guys who you don't know who they are being like, "What would you have me do?" in a big room, and you're gonna be like, "I don't understand any of this." Andor sort of splits the difference by having arcs. And that I really like because there'll be 3 or 4 episodes that are serialized about an arc, and then it'll stop. That shit happened. We finished, and then some other new thing happens, and we don't talk about that stuff really as much anymore. The consequences will be addressed and will be part of it, but it is not about that anymore. And I think that's so dope. They stole that from anime. Here's the thing, Joe. Also. This part, I texted you about this when this happened. It's so fucking funny. I knew from discourse that there was going to be a prison arc where Andor's in prison. And I'm like, okay, he's going to go to prison at some point. Whatever. Whatever. Good to know. The first main arc after the first 3 episodes that suck ass is heist. He's going to do a heist for the rebellion. He got hired as a mercenary. He doesn't believe in the politics yet. He doesn't, but he joins a cell of true believers, one of whom is us. He is a little nerd who writes manifestos, and he's all about leftist politics. And I'm like, that guy looks exactly like me. And he's starting to become a political dissident, yeah. But he does this big heist, and the heist, they do it. Obviously there are, setbacks. Some people don't make it out, but they do the heist. They steal a shit ton of stuff from the Empire, and it really fucks up the Empire's whole deal in a significant way. It's galaxy-wide news. It's oh my god, can you believe what happened? The rebels fucking did this. They struck a major blow against the Empire. Can't believe it. He gets paid because he's a mercenary, so he's rich now. He goes to Beach Planet. And I also love this. This is this series is serious, and it does have a sort of political ideology that is well defined. I'm not going to say it's radical, but considering how most media intentionally denies having any political point, all the Ubisoft games are we are not making any political points. This show is we are making a political point, and it is that when fascists exist, you must kill them. It is unapologetic. When Andor kills the fascists who are just doing their job, cheer, people, cheer. And I like that. Anyway, the point being, he gets his big pay. He gets his big payday. He does it's doing the Star Wars thing, where despite the seriousness of the show, every planet, I'm putting planet in scare quotes, every planet is 10 city blocks. That's all it is. But he goes to Beach Planet to chill out, because he's rich now. And he's just walking to the store. He's not doing any dissident activity. He's done. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the Empire, but so what? He's going to the store. And some guys are running by him, and they look really upset. And he's like, I wonder what their deal is. Whatever. And some cops are chasing them. He's like, I guess they're running from the cops. And he turns to go to the store. And he's 10 feet away. And some cop is stop. What are you doing? And he's like, I'm going to the store. He's like, are you with them? And he's like, with who? And that's exactly what someone who's with them would say. Why are you so sweaty? And he's like, because it's hot out. And it's or because you were running? Running? From what? And he's like, oh, you know from what? Don't play dumb with me. Dumb about what? It's oh, because you're with them. He's like, I'm not with them. And he gets arrested. And because of that big heist that happened, that he was a part of, the Empire, one of their responses is basically like, all crimes now have like 10 times as long sentences. So you get sentenced to jail for 6 years. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so fucking funny.
Like just an arbitrary. Basically, that's OJ's situation. Like, he didn't go to jail for the thing he knew.
Fuck you. That made me start coughing. Yeah, Andor is O.J. Simpson. I'm not gonna get too much more into it. I will say though, Andor, the main character, it's an ensemble cast show, so he's good, but he's not really the main focus. Like he's a good character, and the actor is charming, charismatic, does a good job, portrays his radicalization in a realistic way. I will say though, there are 4 supporting characters who are just home run hits that I love, and when they show up, I hoot, and I love it. The first one is a fucking nerd freak. He's so fucked up, dude. He is the quintessential eater of the rules fruit. He is an Elon Musk reply guy. He is this little nerd who believes with his whole heart in order and authority and following the rules. He starts off the whole plot because Andor killed some fucking low-level goons trying to do some shit that never pans out. It's unclear what he was doing, but he killed some guys. He did some murder, yeah? And the sort of guy in charge of the sector was like, those 2 guys are not important. They probably were bugging the guy who killed them because I've met them and they fucking suck. I think it would be a waste of resources to go after this. Write up a report, little nerd, that says they just died in a fight. And he's just like, no, why would I do that? The rules say that you have to follow up every crime and punish evildoers. So he sets up his own little squad of total nerds to go and save the day, and he fucks up because he's incompetent, and he gets demoted. And the rest of the show is him being like, no, I don't want to be demoted. I want to follow the rules and move up the ranks. He's such a he has the energy in the way he stands is so nerd rule freak. It's such a well-realized portrayal of this impulse that we know so well from seeing it embodied in the worst people in the universe. Second is the fucking main antagonist, who's this lady who works in Empire CIA. And it's very funny because her arc it would be a protagonist's arc in another show, a workplace drama. Because her whole thing is she is getting sexismed all the time. No one takes her seriously because she's a woman. And she needs to work twice as hard. And
torture really, twice as good.
Yes. It's exactly that. She needs to work twice as hard and torture twice as well. And so she is no, I think that there is a pattern of rebel behavior that speaks to a rebel alliance, not just random crime. And no one believes her because she's just some lady, and these chauvinists don't know what she's talking about, but we know that she's telling the truth. We know that she's correct because we've seen it. And she finally makes her case, and she puts herself out on the line, knowing that by taking this chance, she might be risking her career. And the old white man in charge is like, "Say, Toots." Looks like that brain's not just for show. And she gets rewarded, and oh, you're like, yes, but you're like, wait, no, not yes, fuck this. Boo!
These missiles were fired by a woman.
It's exactly that. It's so funny that all this whole arc is very she's overcoming the odds. She is doing what it takes, but in order that she might get a better and more prestigious job in the murder factory.
The Venture Brothers really have the perfect encapsulation of this, which is just, they elected a Hitler and a woman. How progressive.
First girl president and a Hitler. Yeah. And okay, so two more characters who kick ass. One is Luthen, who is Stellan Skarsgård, who is a real actor. Who I was shocked when he showed up because I'm like, oh fuck, he's really good. What's he doing in this shit? And he's the fucking best. He is the shadowy power broker who is the one who is bringing the rebels together. He is the one who is making the anti-empire sentiment into a united front. into an actual like military threat so that a Star War might occur. And he fucking kicks ass because this guy, he when you first meet him, he's this shadowy, like, evil looking figure. He's got a gravelly evil voice. He looks evil. He has an evil bearing. He treats people like pawns because really that is what they are to him. In order for him to be effective, he has to not care about the lives of the people that he is manipulating. Like, he needs to be able to, like, sacrifice 100 guys because to, spare them would tip off the Empire about, like, oh, the rebels have intelligence that would make them know. So he is evil and manipulative and a black-hearted man. But he also is, like, the only one doing what must be done. And it's like, holy shit, this is actually a complex character. I like that. And this is the best part. His sort of front, the reason he is able to go around all over the galaxy here and there and like move big amounts of money around to fund rebel activity and such, his cover is that he is a rare antiquities dealer on the fucking capital city planet, like New York City planet, where everyone important lives, and he sells antiques for incredible amounts of money. And when he does, he puts on this ridiculous wig and he transforms from the evil, like, I'll do anything it takes, there's no sacrifice I won't make, and he becomes like, hello, welcome to the store. And it's like, there's a bit right at the beginning where you haven't seen him in the store yet, where he's just in his ship going back to the store, and you're like, I wonder what he's doing. And he puts on his wig, and you're like, that wig is hilarious. And he, like, goes up to the mirror and, like, mimes himself making a couple of, like, flouncy faces to get ready. And I'm just like, man, maybe this show is good. And then the fourth character, who is a home run, I'm not done with it because I've sort of lost the will to keep watching once this character left, because he's a one arc character, and it is Andy Serkis's character. Andy Serkis, he's the mocap guy. He's Gollum. Mm-hmm. They let him be in his human skin for this one. You see his
he's not crawling around.
He's not crawling around. He's just a guy. He is like the foreman of the slavery prison that Andor gets sent to. He gets sent to a prison where there's 49 guys in a room, and there's 7 rooms on each floor, and there's 7 floors, and they're all spending 12 hours a day doing slavery. And he is the foreman of the room Andor is in, and his job is to yell at everyone to follow the rules, just stay in line, and we'll get out of here, and no one will get hurt, okay? Keep the productivity up. Don't slack off. And anytime someone's trying to, like, talk amongst themselves or say any sort of seditious stuff, he's like, hey, shut up. Stay on target. Don't do this.
I'm noticing that this show has a very clear theme, which is that you got to follow the rules. They're very important. And the more you follow them, the better and gooder you are.
Exactly. No, it's quite the opposite. In fact, because the arc of the prison arc, it really is his arc, because the thing that needs to change in order for there to be any action in the prison, in order for them to actually do anything to affect any change, is that the foreman on Andor's floor needs to become radicalized as well. And this, I remember I kept seeing after some week, people kept posting the phrase never more than 12 without context on Twitter. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? And they would say, they said it with, like, reverence. Like, this is, like, one of the greatest, like, never more than 12. Wow. What a show. Never more than 12. Wow. And I'm like, this is so dumb. I can't wait to watch this and hate it so that I'm smarter than them. Well, Joe, when his radicalization comes, it happens so gradually and so slowly. And this is why I didn't want to watch it after Andy Serkis has left, because his performance is, like, jaw-droppingly good. Like, his acting is incredible. The way that, like, this guy who is clearly so bought in to follow the rules, the more you follow the rules, the gooder you are. What it would take emotionally for him to become radicalized is so well portrayed, because he is as he's feeling all of it, he also has a layer on top of all those feelings of of terror, that like, no, you have to follow the rules. Like, I can't be thinking about breaking the rules because the rules are important. And then a further layer of fear, which is, if I decide to abandon the rules, everything I've done up to this point has been for nothing and has been, in fact, like, evil. And when he finally breaks through that, when he's able to let go of that sort of need to, like, no, I have to cling to the rules. The rules, they're important. They're important. They've been important to me for years. When he lets go and says never more than 12, it's such a subtle moment. It's not bombastic. It's not, like, big. It's so just, you can see a little switch flip in his head, and the way he acts is just different now. And he says never more than 12. Without context, what the fuck does that mean? Nothing. But in context, like, him just saying that under his breath with that look on his face made me, like, go like, yes! Because it means that, like, we, like, solidarity, folks. Like, the capo is on the dissident side now. And then they win. Spoiler. They get out of prison. It's a good show. I hate to say it. I like it a lot.
It is a Star Wars. But there's no Jedis, right?
There's no Jedis, but unfortunately, everyone's name is Glup Shido. Like, I haven't said anyone's name when I talk about these great characters because their names are so dumb. Like, the part of what's so refreshing about this show is it's about real people. It's not about wizards. It's not about kings. It's not about chosen ones. It's about, like, fucking guys at their job. It's about people who, like, are poor and, like, are doing their best. And, like, that's a take on the universe that you don't really get to see. And it's very refreshing and interesting to see stories told like that. However, everyone is named Glup Shido still. Like, Andy Serkis's character is named Kino Loy, and every time they say, like, Kino, what are we gonna do? I'm just like, oh my god, just call him Andy. Glup Shido. Joe. I got two more things I want to talk about. One of them is long, so I'm going to do the short one first. I have been playing the game. I've been playing Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, but I'm not going to talk about those. I'm going to talk about this other game I played, sort of my break game, which was Ace Combat 7. Essentially the Top Gun game. You're a Top Gun guy doing plain arcade-style action, plain missions. Shooting guys.
That has been sitting in my backlog for a while. I believe I was gifted that by homie of the show and composer of our theme, Chuck Rios. My understanding is it's a pilot game, like you fly a jet, but it's about friends.
Yo, okay, so my review of Ace Combat 7, the gameplay is that it's really fun. Shoot 'em up arcade action. I wouldn't say shoot 'em up. It's really fun action. It's definitely not realistic to how you would actually fly a plane. It's like arcade style.
I do not want real.
Exactly. Yeah. It's realistic enough that it doesn't feel silly, but like you have 80 missiles, Yeah. a real plane.
Yeah.
You can see on the 3D model that the plane has 4 missiles. But you shoot 80. It's fucking fun. The missions are varied. They're not all the same. Sometimes there's ground missions where you have to defeat ground targets. Sometimes it's just a dogfight, your classic. Sometimes it's a mix where you have to have a plane that can do both. There's the Death Star trench run where you have to go in this fucking canyon. You can't go above a certain altitude, and then halfway through there are searchlights that are going up and down, and you can't get in the light because otherwise they'll see you. And then once you get to the end of the canyon, it's like the enemy secret base, and you gotta fuck it up in an amount of time. It's fun. I like it. Here's the thing, though. Thing about Ace Combat 7. Apparently, I didn't know this. I never played any other games. I never knew anything about them. These are games that are addicted to having lore and plot, like a lot. Like a lot. Like there's many, like long, like AAA production value cutscenes that are like, you can tell a lot went into the writing. Like
of a plane? Like what is being depicted in the cutscene?
Okay, this is Joe, this is the fucking gag that's gonna make you fucking laugh. my wife saw me boot up this game for the first time and see the opening cutscene. The opening cutscene is about this girl, this woman, who comes from a long line of pilots. She heard about flying in the war from her granddad and her dad. They didn't want her to fly because it's so dangerous, but the sky called to her. She wanted to see, what's the color of the sky up there? What does it look like up in the heavens? I want to be there. And I'm like, this is the main character. Obviously, this is the main character. And my wife is like, a girl main character. Progressive. And then, like, she makes her own, she, like, has to learn from, you know, the old planes that her grandpa used to fly, how planes work, and she builds her own plane, and she, like, takes off for the first time in a plane she built herself, and she's starting to feel that freedom, and then she gets arrested because actually that was restricted military airspace and she didn't have a license, so she's in a little jail now. And I'm like, okay, protagonist in jail, classic. First, you know, start him off low so we can build him up. And then the first mission begins. And everyone, this is actual gameplay. And then the first mission begins, and you get to see the actual gameplay, which is you in a fucking airplane shooting guys, yeah? And once the actual gameplay begins, the only method they have to tell stories is people on the radio yelling at you things that happen.
Yes!
Which is like, oh my god, this happened!
Oh, it's
whoa!
so good.
It's like they try so hard on the cutscenes, and they introduce so much lore, so much geopolitics about this fictional world. And then when the actual game starts, it's guys being like, hello, there are planes over here. Whoa, they did this. And I'm realizing that everyone, when they refer to me, because my guy never talks, like, I'm like, why isn't this girl talking? She was talking so much during the cutscene. When everyone refers to me, they call me Trigger, which I'm like, what does that mean? That's not this girl's name.
Do you have evidence that you are the guy inside the plane and not just the plane? Like, maybe you did My Mother the Car into a plane.
I don't know. I don't know, because your guy, Trigger, spoiler, he's not that girl. He's nobody. Like, there are a lot of characters in the cutscenes who have, like, a lot of dialogue, and, like, you get to hear about their inner thoughts, and they have an emotional arc. But the actual person you play as, Trigger, is silent. Which is insane, because he's in a flight squadron. He needs to tell people about what he's doing.
He has to say over sometimes.
Exactly, but he never fucking does. So... And there's no evidence this is a real person, because you never see him on screen in the cutscenes. And the only time when you first start the mission and, like, you see your airplane leaving the hangar, you can see through the fucking windshield that there's a guy in there. You can't see because he's got a flight helmet on. It could be anyone in there, but there's someone in there. And then, Joe, the scariest thing happened, because you can buy other planes as you get points, you know, better planes and have more varied roles.
That's how it works for the real Air Force too.
Exactly. Well, Joe, you can eventually get those planes, the bigger planes. And if you've seen Top Gun, you know that sometimes there's two people in the planes. There's one guy who's the fucking guy who actually flies it, and the other guy is just the lookout. He looks around because the pilot has to be looking straight ahead. He's looking around telling the pilot, like, there's a guy over there. There's a guy over there. You should do this. You should do, you know, he's like the second guy in a rally car. You can get a plane that is one of those. And when you leave, there's two guys in the plane. And I'm like, who's that other guy? Where did he come from? And then when you get another plane that's a single seater, it's like, what did they do with the guy? What did they do with him? Is he dead?
He was fired.
And that girl who's in the cutscene, Joe, what happens is your guy is a fighter pilot, and he gets framed for a crime he doesn't commit, and he gets sent to prison squad. And, you know, when prison squad's planes get damaged, who fixes them? Well, it's that girl, of course, because she knows about building planes. So basically...
So even the prison has planes.
Yes, yeah, because they're all sky prisoners. These are all pilots who committed sky crime.
Oh, okay, I see.
And so they form the crime squadron that gets given the hardest. There's the Suicide Squad, basically.
Okay, I was thinking there was like a Gen Pop prison, and and then if you're real good, you can try out for the plane team.
No. It's insane that they spent like 20 minutes of highly polished cutscenes on this character, and the way that she actually shows up in the gameplay is every once in a while someone's like, "My plane's dinged up pretty bad. Glad we got the scrap queen back at base to fix it up." And it's like that's all. That's all it was, huh? Uh it's so silly. I like it. Good game. Joe, though, okay, here's what I want to talk about. I'm going to close out the episode with this. This is going to be my big thing. It's a manga that I recently finished, and it's going to sound silly when I tell you the premise. And in many ways, it is sort of a stock standard, like, anime plot. Like, a lot of these things I'm going to tell you, you're going to be like, yep, just formula. But, like, it's one of those mangas that you have to believe me when I tell you about this, because I can't, you have to see it firsthand to actually feel what's special about it. Because what's special about it is that it's written and drawn with like a respect and like poetry, like a philosophy. Like there's like something behind it. It's actually saying something. Like a lot of these, shonen action series, what they're saying is, I would like to have a living drawing comics. Like that's the point of it. Like it's not making a point. It's just like, well, I know this sells and I'd like to draw professionally. But this is like a piece of real art. So don't laugh when I tell you that this is a manga about competitive stone skipping. It is called The Stone That Floats Across the Lake.
But it skips.
It skips.
Or is he that good?
He's that good. It's a metaphor. It's not really floating, but it skips with such beauty that it is as though.
The rocks are not a metaphor, though, right? They're real.
They're real. It's really about skipping stones. Like how, Haikyuu is really about volleyball, and it's not like cyber volleyball. It's not like war volleyball where they're enders gaming, and when they do a spike, they're actually deciding where to shoot a missile. It's like, it's volleyball. There's nothing else, but that's enough to make it meaningful. And it's the same thing here, but more so. So we open on our main character, Kentaro. I'm going to call him Ken. He's an old man, the best stone skipper in the world. And he's at the end of his career. He's old now. He lives in a hut in the mountains. He owns this huge expanse of wilderness, and he just built this fucking like bare hut to actually live in. He's alone. He lives by himself. He's basically an ascetic. He's like a monk. He looks like a hermit. He's dressed in like ratty old clothes. His hair is graying and like matted, and just he's got a big wild beard. And he's about to go and skip a stone, and then we flashback back in a huge long flashback to basically be like, how did he get here? So when Kentaro is a child, he is basically a huge fucking weird freak. And he's always been a weird freak. And he always will be. He never fits in. He struggles, like, he can't even eat. Like, his parents are finding it difficult to make him eat enough food. He'll like feel compelled to sleep for like 12 hours a day or more. Like, he's just so exhausted all the time when he's awake. He go to the doctors. The doctors say he's totally healthy. Like, physically, he's all there. He excels at school. He's like a genius. He gets perfect grades. Everything he tries, he's good at. But just the mere act of being in the world is a burden to him that he can't bear. So he's going through his young life. Again, everything he tries, he's great at. He's science, he understands it, and he just understands it intuitively and is a whiz at it. Art, he is incredible. He can draw like a master. He can paint. Fucking sports, he excels at every sport he tries. He becomes the star of every team. But they never can none of these things hold his interest for very long. Because, like, for sports at least, because this is technically a sports manga, the other players, like the fact that he's on a team against another team, like they're not compelling to him. Like he doesn't feel as though the other people playing match him. So he just loses interest. The only time he's really at peace is when he's alone in nature, when he gets away from the life, from the world that weighs him down. So eventually, combine those two, he starts becoming obsessed with, sort of solitary physical activity, like lifting, cycling through the fucking mountains, hiking. He's just doing that constantly. It's the only time that he's able to have some level of peace. Eventually, he learns about stone skipping. And just the first time he does it and sees the stone skipping across the water, he just feels everything in his life weave together. I have some quotes here that I would like to read. With a stone, I feel clasped to the planet. I feel anchored. I feel as though I hold infinity in the palm of my hand. There is so much poetry because you find that stone, you throw it into the river, and it's gone. You've pursued an endeavor until you've figured it all out, and then you hand it over to the world and see what comes of it. He's just like, this becomes everything to him. It is an activity that cannot be co-opted, it cannot be commercialized, it cannot be technologized, it cannot be taken away from nature. It cannot be made into one of these things of the world that disgust him, that weigh him down, that cannot hold his interest. It is elemental. It will always be a stone and the water and your arm. He spends years at this point he's an adult. He sort of lived a sort of drifter's life. He now owns this land. Again, he built a hut, basically just like, I need somewhere to sleep. I don't care about what's in it. So it's like a crappy little cabin. And he just spends all of his time skipping stones and thinking about it. Like I said, he was a math and science whiz. Like he's skipping like thousands of stones, and then he'll go home and like study like surface tension, gyroscopic inertia, angular momentum, like what angle is the best angle, like how hard do I have to throw it to not break the surface tension but get the most sort of lift. He's like making theorems, dude, and like they're paying off. He's doing it more and more and more, and it is becoming like, and as I said, it is taking over his life. There was a very funny scene, and there's not very many gags, but when they come, they are very funny. Where like one of his old friends has been trying to get in touch with him for like a year, and it's extremely difficult to do so. And finally, they make plans for the friend to come visit Kentaro in fucking October, I think. Yes, okay, I'm looking at the quote. And then as soon as the guy is about to like get ready to leave, he checks his mailbox and he has a letter from Kentaro that says, "Apologies. October through March is pretty much my psychic recovery phase. I will spend most of the next 6 months in super isolation. No power, no heat, no water, no phone. Getting high, maybe drunk. Watching video, writing, reading, taking hikes, and crapping every day in a bucket in the basement. All just trying to get myself centered for the next year. I need this time for mental health, and that has to be me alone." And like when you see him, when you like see the scenes with him in it, it's just like, yeah, he would do that. He would crap in the bucket. Like, why would he do anything else? There was one earlier scene where like he's just first starting to get into the stone skipping, and that friend does visit him, and he sees how good he is at it already, and he's like, "Hey, I bet you couldn't skip this cinder block," like as a joke. And he throws it, and it skips. Doesn't skip far, but it skips, and it's like, this is real. It's like when Naruto like first like has command of his powers and isn't like the little jokey boy, and you're like, oh shit, he's real. Anyway, so this is when it gets. That was all sort of prologue. This is when the meat begins. He comes out of his isolation to compete professionally, and he has not been a part of the scene up to this point, but he decides like, I have now honed my skill. And I know that I am the best. I will now go into the world and prove it. And so he's at this competitive stone skipping event, and that's where he meets Russ, who is basically the absolute opposite of Kentaro. Russ is a boisterous American, loud cigar trump and beer belly guy with no fitness regime to speak of. Kentaro is a honed blade. His body is like perfect because he's like, I have determined through science that I need absolute strength and muscle mass in order to apply the forces required for my theorems, for my equations to work.
His gains are for rock throwing.
Exactly, yes. And Russ does not fucking exercise. He is wearing fucking Hawaiian shirts all the time. He's basically like Jimmy Buffett. He is like a silly man. He loves slamming beers. And they ask him about, like, someone asked him, like, what's your technique? How are you so good? And he's like, ain't got none. Grip it and rip it. He is everything that Kentaro is, Russ is not. And would you believe it? He hates him. They have a Sasuke Naruto rivalry. He can't stand, because like the thing is, like, Russ is as good somehow. It doesn't make sense, but he is as good as him. I'm like, they have like their Naruto Sasuke rivalry. Like, they do all the fucking, like, they have their, you know, Budokai Tenkaichi like series where like they every year they come back to the fucking tournament and they keep trading the fucking title back and forth. And every year, you know, Kentaro is spending his entire year focused with no other thoughts on his skipping technique. How can I be better? How can I fucking squeeze a few more skips out of this stone? Like, what will it take?
I'm getting a Grimes and Homer dynamic.
It is very Grimes and Homer. And like every year he comes back thinking like, I have made a breakthrough that no one can catch up to. Like, I have done it. Like, I have unlocked the elemental truth of stone skipping. And he comes and he throws his stone and everyone loses their fucking minds. And Russ is either right there to just beat him or just lose. And even when he wins, he's just like, Russ should not have come close. Like, no. Like, you can't do that. He's not respecting the stone.
He's not putting in the work.
Correct. Exactly.
This is hall monitor behavior.
I mean, you kind of can't. I mean, it sounds like hall monitor because I'm like explaining it really quick, but you kind of can't hold it against him because like he is a mentally troubled person. Like, it's very clear that Kentaro has mental illness and he cannot function in society. When he's in society, he is so anxious and so nervous. He cannot like I said, when he was a kid, he couldn't eat and he was sleeping constantly. He just like his body rejected life, you know? This is what gives him purpose. It is the only thing that gives him solace. It's the only thing that makes his mind silent, that gives him real peace. So, and because he is like a genius who is like constantly reading philosophy and always writing and like very in touch with his thoughts, like he has developed like a real deep philosophy about what stone skipping means, both to him and like about the world, like what it is a metaphor for. It is a metaphor for everything that he believes is like pure and good. And it does not make sense that a dumbass beer guzzling rube is almost as good or sometimes better than him. The turning point is they're making a big budget Hollywood movie about stone skipping, yeah, and they need a consultant. And
this is Coupon the movie. I'm sorry, this is Coupon the movie.
There's some suspension of disbelief you have to do. They pick Russ to be the stone skipping consultant, and while he's in America to help out with the movie, people hear talk like, oh, there's a fucking world class champion stone skipper around, and so how they make those like on YouTube all the time. There's like those mini documentaries about like oh, this is a remarkable person. Like, huh? Would you believe that? Like, what a funny little thing this guy can do. Like this is the world record guy for fucking hula hooping. Can you believe it? And they like show the guy hula hooping.
Like a now this video.
Exactly. Like he's in a bunch of those about stone skipping. And like at one point someone like a college is like, oh, you should compete against our robot arm, and like he does, and he fucking rinses the robot arm's terrible, humanity's supreme, and like he's everywhere he goes and he's doing this, people are like, wow, I never knew stone skipping to be this cool. It's like when they see volleyball and haiku and people like turn, it's like, whoa, this is important, this isn't silly. And like he is emboldened by this because like he, this was a hobby. Like he just showed up at the tournaments because he likes it. So he decides like, yo, I'm going to start selling some Russ merch. And he sells Russ branded merch. And it's around this time that Kentaro finds out, because he's like off the grid most of the time. Like he lives in a fucking hut and craps in a bucket. And he finds out and he is livid. Like he is seeing red, both for two things. One, that Russ is sullying the sport with self-promotion and merch. That is not what this is about. This is a sacred communion with the planet. This is not something that you can sell fucking keychains over, Russ. And he sort of is ashamed to even admit this to himself. He's furious he was not asked. I should be the consultant.
Right.
I know this more than him.
He knows the equations.
So he goes to Hollywood himself and shows up and is like, I must be included. You have to, like, you cannot include him and not me. And, you know, they are like, oh, okay, well, sure. And they, like, humor him. But, like, it's lasts for, like, a day because it's a fucking movie. They're not going to give that much of a shit about, like, the real specifics, and he loses his mind that they're not like, no, that's not right. You're not doing it right. You have to do it like this. And like he gets into a huge screaming match with the director and gets banned from the set like right away. And he is just, and he walks alone in nature, trying to make sense of what he's done and what's happened to him and where he's at in his life. And even though he's like hiking alone, where he feels comfortable, he can't get centered, and he finds a body of water and he starts finding some stones and tries skipping them. You know, this will center me. This is what gets me back to who I am. And he just can't get it. Like he's not throwing them right, and he can't just get past his anger, this resentment. He's like, this is not what I'm supposed to be feeling. This is not what stone skipping is about. What is this? He just can't get back to where he needs to be. And then, as he's just sort of thinking this to himself, he sees a stone whiz by him, and it's just gorgeous. It's perfect, and he sees it skip across the lake, and his breath is taken away, and he forgets all of his resentment. He lets it all drop, and he just feels at peace, and he turns around. Joe, can you guess who threw that stone?
It's my boy Russ.
It's your boy Russ. And for the first time in their lives, they are alone. There's no competitive. They're not at a tournament. They talk to each other, man to man, no competition. And as they do, Kentaro learns, like, oh, Russ is me. He also never fit in. His life was also a string of failures and things that never went anywhere or panned out. His thing that he's like proud of is his military service, but deep down, he doesn't actually think it's anything worth valorizing. It's just what he had to fall back on to make himself feel like he was important. It was stone skipping, something he came to late in life. The first time he ever really felt confident and worthwhile. The first time he found something that was his. And Kentaro was just like, you're me. I wrote a quote down. Russ, you know what? You're me. You're a kid. A kid who finally found the thing you're proud of. And dude, they become best friends. Closer friends than Kentaro has ever had in his life. But, well, Joe, it's a tragic tale. Russ has never been in good health because he never fucking takes care of himself. And he eventually develops cancer. And it's taking him. He keeps coming to tournaments, but each time he comes, he's diminished, both physically, like he's getting gaunt and thin, and he also just does not have the juice he once had, until finally he's confined to bed. It's terminal. This is the end. Kentaro makes the effort to be there to say goodbye before he goes. It's a very moving scene because he does not go anywhere ever. And when he's gone, when Russ passes, Kentaro is like lost in a way he had never been before. He's always been by himself. Like there was an arc where he did get married, but like the marriage was based on like we're both misfits who love nature. But his wife sort of assumed you would also love me as much. And no, he loves stone skipping, and she eventually leaves, and he's just like, well, that's how it is. But like now he is lonely for like the first time in his life, like really lonely. And that's when we get to the beginning where he is elderly, all bedraggled. He's clearly been in this cabin for months. And we see him walking towards the lake on his property. And he is going to attempt the ultimate throw of his career in many ways. the throw that every moment of his life was bringing him toward. He has a camera set up to capture it for posterity and to prove it is a world record, because it will be. And he throws it, and it is a world record by a huge margin. It is an 88 skip throw. And like, this is like 4 pages of just the skipping. And that sounds like it would be really boring, but just the paneling, it's breathtaking. Like the way that the artist can portray the speed, the spin, the motion, the way that the water reacts when this stone, which is undergoing insane forces, like it is inhuman what this stone is doing, and the way the water reacts when it hits it, and how it just can, like, there are times when it's like doing a bunch of like little skips, and you think like surely, and like the distance between them is getting smaller, and you think surely it's petering out, and then like the last skip will, for whatever reason, just the angle of the strike, it will like lift 2 feet in the air and just fly for like 20 feet. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It is the titular stone that floats on the lake. And if you see this, you will know that this is no silly manga. This isn't a gag manga. Haha, how funny. Stone skipping, who would write about that? That's funny. No, this is as beautiful a piece of art as it gets.
So that sounds pretty cool. So is this a long manga?
Well, actually, that's a great question, Joe. In order to answer it, I got to tell you, this is actually not a manga. This manga does not exist. It's fake. This shit all happened for real.
No.
I have taken a few artistic liberties. Kentaro's name is Kurt. He is not Japanese. Him and Russ are both American. The timeline is not as I described, and also I've ascribed some feelings and emotions that I have intuited may have been how they felt at the time. But I'll link the article about this. I'm gonna tell you, like, 95% of that shit I said was fucking true. It's really cool. Shout out to Paul Starr for sending me this article and telling me to do a gag where I pretend it's a manga and then say this shit happened for real. This is it's fucking cool. You can see the video of Kurt's 88 skip throw. It is astonishing. It is as I described. There are bits where, like, it's clearly petering out, and then just one hit goes and it just flies.
That's because
for like
there
2
are
seconds.
Hidden boost pads on the surface of every lake.
Exactly, and that's why he has been fucking sequestering himself every year to hone his technique, because he was trying to see what the boost pads looked like.
Fuck.
Joe, did you have suspicions?
No, everything sounded right. Everything sounded exactly like. Because, like, let's review the facts. Someone is into something too hard.
Yeah,
check.
That's anime.
Because it's like an adult manga. The main character hates himself. Check.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Sasuke. Check. Yeah, I mean, like, everything seemed reasonable. I also really agree with the depiction of American as, like, the beer-gutted, like, I rip it and throw it. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, grip and rip it is a direct quote from Russ, from the article. And he does slam beers and chomp cigars and wear Hawaiian shirts.
And get cancer? Is that also?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes, he did die. And it's one of the liberties I had is he threw the 88 skip throw while Russ was alive. I changed that up for dramatic effect. But Kurt did feel lost and alone and bereft after Russ's death. And he did become friends with Russ after that frou-frou with the movie. It was not a big Hollywood movie. It was a fucking indie movie, dude. Why wouldn't there be a big Hollywood movie about stone skipping? But it did happen. He did get banned from set for being too furious about being a stickler for how it really should be. Anyway, that's all the time we have for Anime Sickos. I'll link that article in the show notes.
I'm I'm Joe, an anime sicko.
Yeah. Did I say I wasn't an
No,
Sicko?
you gotta do
Well,
it.
you know I am. I'm Tom, an Sicko. Bye bye.
See ya.